This is what I'm going to show you in a second is a timeline that it could just be a spectrum. It could just be a rainbow with varying gradations in between. And in so many ways, these movements never ended. Even if officially they did, or we no longer do that, they find themselves repeating in different ways and playing out similar themes in new ways over the ages. It's like the integral theory idea of transcending and including, that a movement can arise, a new movement, and it doesn't erase the past movement. It includes it within it, but it grows beyond it. It transcends and includes it. And that can be said about a large amount of this material over the ages. So here it is, as they say in Hebrew, begadol, in a big picture. And I'm going to be going step by step through it one at a time. We have biblical prophecy. And you see that arrow pointing to the left. That is there because we don't actually know what came before that. Undoubtedly, there was mysticism that existed in the culture. And I say undoubtedly because mysticism seems to exist in one form or another in a great number of cultures. And knowing where the Bible picks up with the prophetic lineage, I have I guess I could say a great certainty that there was a type of mysticism that existed, whether it was prophetic or whether it was something else. The Bible is continuing a narrative that wasn't written down. So you have biblical prophecy. Merkavah is early rabbinic. It's about 2,000 years ago it begins, and it is talked about largely in the Talmud, which is a large collection of rabbinic sayings, and in some very sparse materials that have been collected that are from archives and things like that. Kabbalah surfaces in the Middle Ages. Lurianic Kabbalah comes after that, and it's here on its own because it had such a drastic and radical rereading of Kabbalah that it's noteworthy on its own. Later, much more recently, Hasidism developed first in Eastern Europe and now in many places, including North America, including Israel. And we are going to end with us and right now and see how this lineage has progressed and how it may progress going forward. So let's look initially at biblical prophecy, which mythically ends around the time of the destruction of the first temple, about 6th century BCE. So we're talking 2,500, 2,600 years ago. Though if you look at, let's say, different shamanic orientations in different cultures, the idea of hearing the voice of a god, right? Even the Dalai Lama, not that that would be characterized necessarily as shamanic, but he has an official state medium who channels insights from a particular Tibetan deity and gives advice to the Dalai Lama. I mean, that sounds an awful lot like the biblical prophetic tradition, which was hearing the voice of God and having some kind of action or message or warning, or sometimes instilling punishment and sometimes saving people. An archetypal prophet is Moses, who parted the Sea of Reeds using the inspiration and the power of God, who was hearing some kind of subtle voice that other people couldn't hear. And it was leading him to action. And some prophets are chosen, it seems, out of the blue, and they're surprised by it. The prophet Jonah didn't want to be a prophet. Moses stumbles upon a burning bush. Who knows if they had training? But there's some prophets like Elijah and Elisha later on who certainly had a discipleship, almost like the Jedi. They were sort of, one would take on a student who would pass it on to the next generation.